Jason Gordon from Aurion Learning, and welcome to this. This is the latest installment in our Learning Leaders series. I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Angie Merrilees from CJ Lang. You may not recognise that name, but when Angie tells us a little about her role and what she does, you'll certainly recognise the brand. So perhaps today, before we start, Angie, you could maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your learning journey to date.
Okay, so morning, my name's Angie Merrilees and I'm training manager for CJ Lang. We own and operate all the Spar stores throughout Scotland. I'm based in the Dundee office, which is where our head office is, where our big warehouse and distribution centre is. And throughout Scotland, we have a team of 5 trainers who are out and about in stores delivering training for our 2,000 employees.
Good. So one of the questions that we've been kicking off this series with is the question, what does learning at work means for you? And this is something that runs through the DNA in Aurion, this question, what is learning that works? So for different clients, that's different things. But one thing we're really focused on is really seeing business outcomes. It's great for staff to learn new things, but we want to make sure that learning is actually working, it's making a difference in their role, making a difference in the business. So what does learning that work mean for you?
I mean, so for us, e-learning has been a huge benefit to us, and that's really given us a bit of an edge in making sure that we're able to provide learning that really does work for our staff. We've got 2,000 employees from, stretching as far as Helmsdale in the north of Scotland, way down to the borders. And with only a team of 4 trainers and myself, it's very difficult to be able to make sure that we get all the training that those new starts require. So certainly doing e-learning, we'll have some legal requirements through training, and over the last few years, we've developed our training to be able to ensure that our legal part of our training is covered by e-learning. So it's saved us in time, cost, paper, and it means that our learners can actually do things at home as well as in the store. So it's given the learners a bit more flexibility. The other benefit that we found as well is that if we have learners that maybe just need that little bit extra time to do something, then they can actually do it at home in their own environment, so they feel less pressured to complete the training. So that's definitely learning that works for us.
Yeah, and I'm sure in your environment, that effective learning experience for people, and this kind of leads into our next question is, what makes a good learning experience? What do you think makes a good learning experience? Because like you're saying, you have quite an interesting sort of demographic of the workforce, and they'll learn in so many different ways, sort of hands-on in the store, and like you're saying, online as well. So for you, what makes a good learning experience?
I suppose for me, making sure that our learners actually do get what they need from it. So it's all very well for us to say, oh, we'll put this on e-learning, but we need to make sure that that person, particularly when it's a legal requirement, we need to make sure that they know and understand it. So it's not just enough to say they've sat and done that training and they've taken an hour. We need to know by the end of it that they've actually understood it as well. So being able to incorporate little quizzes throughout the training, and then sort of maybe a final quiz at the end, it then gives us that sort of support and backup that the person that's done the training actually does understand it, and then more importantly can go back into the store and apply it, because that's the important part of it.
So that sort of learning journey, there's that initial piece where they'll do a course or take a session, they'll complete an assessment, but then I'm assuming within that retail environment there, that then is that ongoing assessment from supervisors and line managers and whatnot, checking in on the staff and seeing where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So the e-learning kind of gives them the information that they need, but then once they're in the store, they would then get the experience. So it means that the store manager doesn't need to spend a lot of time going through the sort of the legal and the basics. They would say, well, the person knows that, I've now got to just do the training to help them on the job, and give them that experience. So that's the sort of, it kind of works as quite a good blended approach.
Yeah, there's the theoretical and the experiential learning.
Yes,
And
yeah.
the flow of work and all those terms that we sort of
Yeah.
banter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking now you've been with CJ Lang quite a while, and like you've sort of touched on there, you have staff in the very north and staff in the very south of Scotland, and you're in the car driving around, meeting with them, doing stuff online. Could you perhaps tell us about a significant challenge that you've tackled with learning within that environment?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that we tackled was the very first sort of project that we did with Aurion, which was our licence and training. So before, when I first joined, I've been with CJ Lang now for 6 years, and when I joined, they delivered the legal training in the store by the store manager. It would take them a minimum of 2 hours, and they did it on paper. So there was lots of, backwards and forwards between the training department and the manager to send them all the necessary documents and books and things like that. And we had something like, in excess of 500 people getting that training every year. So that's quite a substantial amount of people to get through that training, and 500 books that needed to be done. So we moved that onto the e-learning platform and did that, and that was a huge project. It was a big learning curve for our store managers because they were used to doing it face to face, so there was a lot of challenges there. Some of them liked it, some of them didn't, but also as well, just from the learner's point of view, helping them through that experience as well. And I would say for the trainers, because it was more a store manager that did the training rather than necessarily the training team, but for us, it was the sort of technology side of it, so we could have a learner that could be trying to access it on this type of PC or this type of mobile phone, so we were sort of almost like IT as well as but we did manage to launch it successfully. We did lots of tests, and obviously Aurion were a great support for us with that, and they wrote the program for us. And then, since then, it's just gone from strength to strength. And I would say in the current situation, we've been able to react really quickly and give our learners access to courses that we would never have been able to do in our old format. So I would say getting e-learning up and running, it was definitely a huge challenge, but wow, it was really worth it.
Yeah, and even I know you mentioned to me recently, even sort of within the current context, it's what you're doing in training is sort of practical as well. You mentioned the other day you were providing some PPE training as well across the stores. How has that situation changed recently?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, we just all sort of learned to adapt to that. So, the PPE training, we've kind of done that sort of more manually, but the stuff that we've been able to do on e-learning has been things like, mental health awareness. We've been able to put on sort of stress management courses. So we were very quickly able to react to be able to say to our staff, your health and well-being is very important, and here's potentially, a list of 5 or 6 courses that you can access free of charge. Just log into your system and you can do them at home, on a mobile, in the store, on wherever, on your bus coming into work, whatever you need to do to help keep you safe.
Yeah, because I think a lot of us are sort of aware of of the risks that NHS staff perhaps are taking with the current situation, and we have chatted to learning leaders in this series from a healthcare background, but certainly that retail environment, whenever I pop over to my local store here to grab some bits and pieces, you really appreciate that those staff are there every day and have people who have very much no awareness of social distancing coming close. Not so.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for them, yeah.
But I'm sure it's been interesting for you as well, because these are things that you don't normally do, and you're having to be responsive and be agile and respond.
Yeah, Yeah, so but it's good to be able to respond quickly, because I think sometimes if you've got old sort of traditional methods, you know, of sending out sheets of paper, and it's just not quick enough sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that's where e-learning really does, you know, you can react quite quickly to any sort of situation and get something out there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got that immediacy of it, and like you say, to try and get around, you know, stores across the country, it would take you a long time to do that. You know?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And just now, you know, the trainers are kind of grounded and a bit like everybody else, where, you know, trying to deal with a lot of situations from maybe home or from head office, and, you know, it's not quite as easy. Whereas at least if we can give them some solution, is better than nothing.
So, moving on to our next question, you know, what are some of the practical steps that an organization can put in place to promote learning? And I know you've shared with me before some of the challenges that you have, that whenever staff are in stores, they are very busy and trying to find in that, you know, to complete some training, or, you know, because they maybe don't have a classroom or a large office with a suite of computers to work at, you know. What are some of the practical steps that you have taken as an organization to really promote learning?
Yeah, well, some of it has been maybe more sort of a structured approach. So whilst it's maybe not the nicest part of our job, we actually go out and audit our stores, just to make sure that, you know, learning is taking place. So there are certain things that we do that say, you know, this course has to be done, because obviously there's some that are a legal requirement. So that would certainly promote that. We do audits on our stores. And again, you know, the e-learning system and the LMS, the learning management system that we use, allows us to be able to do reports. And we don't necessarily have to visit that store to be able to see what training they've done and what training they've not done. We've also set up email reminders, and that's been a great implementation for us. So we can actually say this course needs to be done within 4 weeks of somebody starting, and then the store will actually get an email reminder to say this person's not done their course, and, you know, then they'll get a constant weekly reminder until the course is actually completed. So that's been more of a kind of, you know, like pushing people to do it. But I think you've also then got the other side of it, that, you know, a lot of the training that we do, it's nice to, you know, people want to do the training rather than just have to do the training. So, you know, we're quite lucky, we've got quite a good company intranet, and I don't want to bombard it with lots of training information, but we do every so often put out information in our daily bulletins about, you know, just recognising somebody for completing this training, and that just maybe generates a bit of buzz where people are like, oh, what's that, and how do I get access to that? So I think it's a bit of both. Some of it we'll have to push, and some, you know, we get people to do it because they want to do it.
So there's a push pull, and there's that sort of, there's the stick in one end, and then there's the carrot.
Yes, and then, you know, we've got, with our management programme, we've actually set up some optional courses. So when the managers come and do face-to-face training for their management training, we also back that up with e-learning, but they're all optional. And, you know, but we promote them and say it's up to you. I actually had a manager phone me yesterday from her house on holiday, and what was she doing but her e-learning? And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. So, you know, I just sort of helped her a wee bit with some stuff that she was struggling with. But I thought, you know, that's somebody that wanted to go and do it rather than had to do it.
Yeah, it's a voluntary thing as opposed to that compliance-driven, I must do this, or Angie would be on the phone telling me off. You know?
Yes, yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah. So we've got a good mixture, I think, of courses that people have to do, and then there's optional courses so people can go in and access anything from, you know, basic Excel training right up to, you know, management or personal development courses.
Yeah, no, it's good to have that range there, you know.
Yeah.
So our next question certainly is looking at this sort of concept of a learning leader. So obviously you're leading it's quite a small team, but you have a massive reach, and you know, you're a very busy team, so you certainly would be a learning leader within your industry. So what advice would you give to someone within an organization who wants to develop their reputation as being a learning leader?
I think it's just being adaptable and being open to change and suggestions and ideas. I think the whole sort of learning and development field is just constantly changing. So I think you always need to be, nothing's ever finished. It's just constant plan, do, review. You know, you're just always sort of finding what's, you know, when I've written a training course, I think, right, that's great, but then it's like, right, okay, what can we do differently? How can we improve that? So I think you do need to keep in touch with, you know, and attend lots of different seminars and webinars, and, you know, constantly be learning yourself, and sort of keeping on top of, you know, what's going on out in this sort of learning world. So I think embracing, you know, technology, definitely, and you know, whilst I think that, you know, there's sort of lots of bad things happening in the world just now, I think there's also sort of lots of good things coming out of it. So looking at, you know, we've been messing about a lot more with conference calls and video conferencing calls, and actually thinking that you could be using them for training. So it's just about always being at the forefront, and, you know, sort of looking for new ways and different ways to do the same thing, really.
Yeah, that's a keep expanding yourself as well as, you know, training your staff. You're always growing, always learning.
Yeah.
All right, this is our wild card question. We like to throw this one, but I think you'll find this one quite easy. So we know from sort of looking at sort of industry news and stuff, retail is a very sort of fast-moving environment. You know, we hear things like 0 hours contract and part-time staff. We maybe have people at the twilight of their career, and then we have your students and maybe just want a part-time job on a Saturday to, you know, pay for their booze that weekend. You know, so you have a very diverse workforce, and you have a workforce spread across an entire country, and you've some tiny stores out in the islands, and there's, you know, large stores in like central Glasgow, you know, where you have lots of staff. How do you keep up with such a diverse workforce and try to meet their training needs when you have so many different demographics there spread across so many different locations?
I just think it's all down to communication and keeping in touch with the employees. You know, my team and myself, you know, we're not in an office. We're out and about in the field, and we're out and about speaking to people. We take feedback all the time from our candidates when they're learning. You know, and we do a variety of different approaches. So it's, you know, whilst for some things there maybe is a standard format, we do try not to have one size fits all. We do try to sort of, you know, have a more blended approach. So, you know, we've got different things that we do. Sometimes it's face-to-face training, sometimes it's e-learning, sometimes it might be that we would send them a document, sometimes it's books, sometimes it's phone calls. And I think you've just got to have lots of options, so that it's not just a case of that's the way it gets done and that's it. Have alternatives, you know, to suit. You know, you'd be surprised at how, you know, sometimes we do get people that don't know how to use a computer. So that's the starting point of teaching them that. You know, right down to, you know, people that, you know, just on the computer and get it done very quickly. So yeah, you've just got to be diverse yourself again.
Yeah, and engaged with everyone at their level, like you say.
Yes, yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Angie. You know, it's been interesting to hear from you and all the work you're involved in. And you said this before you came on this call, that you're in the middle of a training session at the minute. You've popped out of the room to take part in this call, so we really appreciate that there. For all of those watching, thank you so much for joining us. And this is our latest Learning Leaders series. You'll find more of these series on our website and our social